Welcome to Vauxhall, a podcast production of Learned and Laughter. This episode of Vauxhall features a discussion with Moses Baiden Jr., founder and chairman of Margins ID Group. These Vauxhall discussions are produced in partnership with Empowering Good Governance, also known as Egg Magazine, an online publication to be found at www.eggmagazine.net. That is www.eggmagazine.net. This episode's guest is Moses Baiden Jr., founder and chairman of Margins ID Group. He has over 30 years of experience in business development, sales, marketing, and manufacturing. With Baiden at the helm of Margins ID Group, the company has built itself a solid reputation and impressed customers with its identity-focused security products, which connect people to solutions and services in a digitalized world. We now join Ekem Amunulatson, the host and producer of Vauxhall, with his guest, Moses Baiden Jr.
It's a very intricate database architecture you have to, and I'm actually impressed that you're able to store that data. Do you store that data and sift through it right here in Ghana?
We are talking about the Ghana card and the National ID project. Yes, the National ID project is made up of about 15 subsystems. So this National ID project has been tried before in the 1970s, early 70s. We issued a paper-based National ID card for the border regions. And then it was discontinued. Then in the 1990s, when Margins was quite young, I think 95, 96, thereabouts, or 97, the Social Security and National Insurance Trust issued a tender document for a national ID. And Margins must have been like 6 years then. We had the only Ghanaian company that bid. And this was for a laminated ID card with a database. So this was preceding the digital revolution. So there was a physical element, which was a secure laminate with an ID card component and a database behind it. We bid it, but it didn't come to fruition. But earlier on in 1992, we had successfully bid and won the tender for making the voters ID card for Ghana. And we would be making it, which was a secure cold laminate with a progressive glue that we designed. And we had been supplying it from 92 to 2000 when we lost the contract. So you see the quality of the card went down after 2000. But that's another story. But we supplied this for a long time. We also supplied the Ghana passports with a lamination solution in more than 32 missions worldwide in the early 90s. So we've been in this business for a long time, but we were in different cycles of it. Now today, when there was a tender in 2003 for a new national ID for Ghana, we joined or put together 4 other Ghanaian companies to form a local consortium. And then we joined an international company to bid. We put together Sambus, Blue Chip, Soft Tribe, Third Rail, and Margins to form a consortium. And we partnered with a prime contractor, international contractor, and we won the contract. That contract was designed differently. And it also had a plastic card that was a polyester card with a 10-year lifespan. And it had, when it was personalized, you would have a 2D barcode behind it that had 4 fingerprints encoded in the 2D barcode with some alphanumeric information and information on the facial record and a database and a biometric system. But the system was designed that you go out, collect the data, you come and produce a card centrally, and then you go and distribute it. And because we were the convening member of that consortium, and we were doing basically the biggest part of the project, we actually produced those cards in Ghana, even though people don't know it, in the same factory that we still have intelligent card production systems. But the system failed for several reasons. And by 2009, the Kufuor government went out of power. The new government tried to continue that. We looked at it at Margins and said, look, this system won't work the way it is designed because of several flaws that we probably don't have time to go into. but basically technically operational and financial sustainability, and also the risk allocation issues. So let us conceptualize, design, and build another system for you that will work, given the lessons learned from here.
With the same consortium?
No.
No.
This
Okay.
time we said that we will conceptualize, design, build, finance, and operate what we thought should be the way the national ID system should work. And we wanted a pilot with the foreigners. So the government said, well, if you're using your own money and you will build it as a pilot and run it, if it fails, it's your problem. But we then will get revenue from what you build at no risk. So we agreed to do that. So that became the first pilot project called the Foreigners Identification Management System, which was basically designed to collect data, transmit it to a central site, do the deduplication in real time, have an inventory control system, have a life cycle control system, have a personalization system, have public key infrastructure, what's security, digital certificates, write to a smart card, the information that was on it, at the back connected it to a database, allow people to be verified in real time, and ensure that people are who they claim they are on the national database for the socio-economic and political advancement of Ghana and for the accuracy of people's information. We started with the foreigners, and by I think conduct was started in 2012. By 2014, we approved that it will work. And so the Bank of Ghana, which was eager to get a register of accurate citizens in order to be sure the banking sector was clean, had then said, well, if it's working with the foreigners, why don't you just extend it for margins to do the whole thing? Because obviously they're able to do it and let it be issued instantly. So that led to some discussions that led to an approval in 2014 by the Public-Private Partnership Approval Committee to continue to extend the pilot to the populace, right?
Okay.
Because we had only registered 900,000 people by that time, even up to 2016. By 2016, we had built sort of the framework for the system and had a few parts of it ready, but we ran into certain avoidable difficulties, which then in 2017, with the new government coming in, the government set up 3 committees to look at a viable way to get the Sunshine ID done. Since it was part of the new government's manifesto, that this was the most important thing to do, a foundational database for Ghana, which ensures that people have one unique number and that people are who they claim they are. So based on the 3 committees that were set up, the outcome of the committees was that the margins proposal was the best proposal that was viable to get a new national ID for Ghana. So that's how we then got the authorization from the president that margins should be engaged and we should deliver this as soon as possible. But this is a design, build, finance, operate, transfer agreement. So the margins had to conceptualize, design, build, finance all these 15 parts. Then the government acquired 6 parts of it, which are the data-bearing assets, because they are privacy issues oriented issues. And we then became the technical and commercial partner of the government, ensuring that the system works as we've designed it on a service level agreement, and agreeing to a risk allocation between public and private, and then agreeing to deliver a service across the rest of the 14 financed by ourselves. And if the service failed, we didn't get paid.
So if you provide them with the service and what you own has non-governmental, let's say commercial potentialities, that you are able to use.
Well, we're not able to. The way that the structure is that we advise the government on how they can legally use the data and provide it to people who are entitled to it by law, in order that people don't have to build their own infrastructure and to verify the identity of people. We will do it for the government. We will get paid on our debt, our equity, our OPEX, etc. And the rest of the money actually goes to the government in order to make the system sustainable.
But you profit share?
Or
you
we
just
have
have a service
incentives. We get paid for our debt, equity, and OPEX and amortization, so on, in a formula that is agreed after value for money has been audited. And so we sort of share, but our shares determined until the government also recover this cost. And there are certain incentives for good performance if we help the government enhance the revenue models whilst protecting the privacy of the individual and keeping within the ambit of the law.
Okay, so now let's ground it a little bit more in governance itself. I mean, the fact that the data is there, but for using it for governance purposes. I'm a town planner by training. I work on urban areas, urban systems and all that. Given what you have now, and given that Accra is a functioning ecosystem of people moving around, consuming, working, and their services to which they would want to have. Anything from commuting information to, let's say, vehicle registration, when it's time for, let's say, your annual car inspection, or let's say you want to figure out property taxes that would be used for governance services. Are you veering down that path in any way? And
well, the simple way to think about it is that since 2017, the government made several changes to the objective and the scope of the project. One of it was social and financial inclusion, 100%. So the government decided that we should finance and give the cards away for free to the citizens. And if these cards worked, then we'll be paid through the revenue that's generated without the government financing it, right? The government also decided that these cards should be from cradle to grave, from when you're born to when you die, the national ID number. And that this unique number should have a legal process that confirms your identity as a Ghanaian as per the Constitution. So you have to go through a legal process. So there are several changes made to the law. There's also a tree of trust that ensures that whoever registers you, whether it's the Commissioner of Oath who administers the oath that you sign, averring that whatever you're giving is true, in case you didn't have documentation, whether it's the interviewer who's interviewing you on your birth certificate to show your parents are Ghanaians or your grandparents are Ghanaians, whether it's the person who inputs your data into the system, the person who takes your biometrics, the person who hands over your card after he's compared your biometrics to that of the card to be sure that it's you, who you claim you are receiving the card before they authorize the activation of all the applets on the card. All these people are connected to you in terms of their number in the database, so they can track and trace to you. So actually, NI's mandate is to ensure the accuracy, the integrity, and the authenticity of the database, and to be able to verify to other users and confirm that the people who are doing that transaction, whether physically or digitally, are who they claim they are. Now, with a foundational database that harmonizes all the databases, you remove all the ghosts, you remove all the false identities, you remove all the criminals, you remove all the people that want a false identity in order to do something that will impact negatively on our socioeconomic and political and security issues. Right? So once you build that database, it costs a lot of money, and you know that people who are who they claim they are, then that database becomes the harmonizing point for all the other institutions, both private and public. Now, because the database includes fields that are designed to cover all fields that most institutions collect to do with identity, they don't have to collect them again. It's only once. So you wipe out all the duplicated costs, right? So now you are talking about the people that need the data to do their work in order that they are more efficient and their planning is more accurate. Because you have things like a digital address on it, we know where you live, we know your address, we know your parents' number, we know your basically your core identification information, including your location information. You can imagine that when you have that, using database analytics, you can tell how many farmers you have, and you know exactly where they all live. So if you want to design roads that goes to farming areas, all you need is a graphics user interface to see where the heat map of where all the farmers are. And that goes for everything else. And so as people now demand services, they can do that digitally by using their ID online, provided they can be verified online. And this data then accumulates other metadata within every core institution. That forms data for the institution in order that they can use this data for better planning and better efficiencies and better outcomes. So there'll be less waste, there'll be much more accurate budget, there'll be more responsibility, there'll be more transparency, and all these other things that you're talking about will be done better, and you can have a forecast even on revenue.
So do you have a subscription service to that database?
The NIA has a subscription service
Okay.
to that database, verified on their platform, that returns the code, that guarantees the NIA is confirming the identity. And we, by implication, as a private sector responsible for the verification, we also guarantee NIA that these results are accurate. And if there's any liability, then it comes right down to the public sector, to the private sector. And then we give these verification codes also to the institutions and agencies. And that they use that for their compliance, But it's not just a question of technology. We're not only a technology company. We're also a business that conceives of complete digital ecosystems and look at the risk within those ecosystems, look at the objectives that the ecosystem seeks to achieve, and design it to have the necessary, meet the necessary objectives that the system is being built for, whilst letting the system follow the law and making sure that this financial systems underlying it are sustainable. And most of all, understanding the risk that may happen in this implementation, being able to mitigate the risk. And our successful deployment of such a complex system in under 2 years, when the system became effective, we registered more than 50 million people in under 24 months. Shows that we understand how it works, because it's been working. Now we're almost at 17 million. And we integrated 15 of the 17 institutions. So that those institutions...
From the postal service to the
if you take
mobile phone companies,
LIA law, LIA
to DAVLA,
2111,
all
all these
under,
institutions, for purposes of identity, can only use the national ID database. And that verification could show that the people doing the service are who they claim they are. Then there's a core service data. So there are other implications for the particular, if you talked about DVLA. So if you want to apply for a driver's license, when you sit at home and you put your national ID number, your core data will immediately transferred into the DVLA system. Are you obeying? So if it's a renewal that you want to make and you already have it done, then you just have to pay. You don't provide any information. DVLA will get your information automatically. So you can imagine what that means for the DVLA ecosystem. It means much more transparency, much more cleaner data, much more better focusing, much better planning, much more transparency, much more convenience for the citizen, much more faster revenue flow for the government. No cheating, no criminality, and you have a clean ecosystem. And if somebody wants to insure your car, they know whether you actually pay the duty or whether you've renewed your vehicle registration or not. Because they can do that on the digital platform, because your national ID allows you to do that digitally.